kind of thinking about becoming a travel agent a while ago, and it was kind of one of my passions that I had in the back of my mind that I wasn't really sure how to pursue. And I always just love the idea of being able to plan trips for people and like, like, oh, you want to go to an all-inclusive? Like, oh, okay, let me help you with that. Like, stay at the best resorts that you have picked oh my gosh, specifically for you, sorry. And, just be able to like help people make that smooth transition in finding all those travel plans because there's so much out there. So yeah, about let's see, almost a year and a half ago for sure. My like I started our travel agency, Dawn of Adventures, and my middle name's Dawn, and my husband helped me come up with the name, so that's kind of fun. Yeah, but we then like in August, he actually came aboard with me and helped me start expanding our travel business even more. So that's super fun to been able to work alongside him, and we both have our strengths and weaknesses, so it's great in that area as well. And yeah, I think that's it.
That's awesome. I work with my husband too. And I mean, sometimes you got to have some patience, right? Like depending on what else is going on. But
Yeah.
all in all, it's super fun. I love the dinner table talks that we have because we're able to talk shop and I don't have to
Yeah.
catch him up on, okay, who am I talking about? How do my, he knows blow by blow how my day goes. So it's
Yeah.
for more interesting conversation because we can get into more details and, really share with each other and share ideas. He is amazing at that. And it sounds like your husband is too.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of Matt's strengths. So I love it. What's your favorite thing about what you do?
Um, my favorite thing is being able to like smooth line people's trips. And I think that's awesome because like I just remember going on vacations and it just being like a chaotic mess because nobody had talked about previously what they wanted to do or where to go exactly. And so it was like we get there and it was like, ooh, like, oh, let's do this, let's do this. So I just like being able to like kind of put a little baseline with some flexibility in there, but just like to book people's excursions ahead of time or book their transfers when they're going where and like that sort of that sort of thing. Oops, sorry.
I love it. It sounds fun. It's like a puzzle, like putting
Yeah.
together puzzle pieces. I can see how that's interesting. So let's jump right into it. A couple of things that you wanted to share today with our audience was really cool, I thought, because I mean, now that things are somewhat getting semi back to normal, I feel like people have been cooped up so long, like it's time to get out, do something, and go somewhere. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that this information is definitely needed and wanted by the masses out there. So give us some tips. How do you, and we're talking about flights, okay? Because I think we could probably have a show on cruises. We could probably have a show on resorts and right, all these kind of other things.
Yeah.
So just speaking about flights right now, what are some tips and tricks on finding the best deals?
Yeah, so it's a lot of patience with flights, honestly. And it's kind of like if you get into the habit of booking flights often, you kind of know a little bit more than you would if you just like look for them randomly. But some of the things that I like to share about flights is that like as far as a travel agency goes, like we can book flights for you, but it's actually sometimes better off if you book the flights by yourself just because the flights don't bring in that much commission on travel. But however, if you book a flight and you need a hotel or a car rental or anything like that, we can absolutely put the packages together for you. And half the time they're cheaper that way. So that's good to know as far as like that sort of thing. But if you're looking for like a flight specifically, it's really good. Oh, there's just so many things. Uh, yeah, it's really good to be able to. I think the number one thing is have a little bit of flexibility in your dates to get the cheapest option. Yep.
Interesting. So, like, instead of saying I have to leave, I mean, of course, it's tough if you're dealing with a work schedule or a school
Right.
schedule, but if you can be flexible. So, for instance, instead of, hey, I need to leave on, Monday the 19th, be flexible to the 18th or be flexible to the 20th or the 21st or something like
Yes.
that.
Yep, and half the time it's like if the more flexible that you can be with the time that you leave and the date that you leave, typically the better options for prices you have. And the other thing that I've heard, I haven't put this to the test yet, but I've also heard that if you book, like the cheapest time to book is like 6 weeks on a Tuesday before your trip. So it's like, yeah, on Tuesdays is also the typically the day that they have the cheapest deals. That I have noticed is that I'll look for a flight and it'll be on a Tuesday and then go in on a Friday and it's like the flight has gone up a couple of $100 and you're like, okay. The other thing I would mention too is if you find a cheap option and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna go, but this is like what I would be reasonable like to pay, book it because half the time they're going to go up and then you're going to regret not being able to book it at that lower price that you saw. So if it's something that you're like, oh, I would pay this, definitely book it right away.
That's great advice. I heard something, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, but I've heard, and again, who knows if this is true, so it might sound silly, but I heard that they actually track like the IP address of your computer. And so if you go back, it's going to be higher every time.
Yes. So that I'm glad you brought that up because that's actually a good thing. And most people don't know this, but if you actually clear your cache and your cookies on your computer after going in for a flight search, typically you'll find the same results instead of having them increase the price or something like that. So definitely be sure to clear your browser history, clear the cache, clear the cookies, and then you should be sitting like pretty okay as far as them not upcharging you for the book like the same flight.
So it is true. That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's insane. I've definitely noticed that. It's kind of crazy.
So we've talked about a couple of ideas on how to find the best deals, when to search for them. So you mentioned like if you look on Tuesdays, typically 6 weeks before you're about to go, that's typically a good time frame. Any other tips as far as those two topics are concerned?
Yeah, so I would say also like when I typically like search for something, so I'm from Minnesota originally, and in my area we have two airports that we could fly out of, and one is an hour away and one's 3 hours away. Typically, the one in Minneapolis, St. Paul is cheaper because it's a higher traffic airport and they have a lot more flights coming in and out. And so then typically the airport will be cheaper. However, the smaller Fargo airport is still an international airport, but they don't oftentimes they're more expensive because it's the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. And so if you can, that is the second thing I would definitely say is be flexible with your airport locations. Obviously if it's like 5 hours away, you might want to just weigh the pros and cons of finding the cheaper flight versus getting to the airport and the gas
Right.
and all that stuff. But that's definitely another option as far as those sort of things. The other thing too is that what you can do is you can also look for multiple destination flights and where you book, going one way, let's see, you want to go from Minneapolis to Dallas, but then you also want to go to like Colorado or something in Denver. And so, but sometimes like so you have those three locations that you're going to go, but instead of going from Denver back to Minneapolis, Denver has a really cheap flight that'll go from Denver to Fargo, which is closer than Minneapolis. So it could be also that you look at the one-way deals and see if those are cheaper going back to the other location that you're looking for. If that makes sense.
Interesting, right? So instead of getting your round trip, which I always been programmed to think that, well, you get your round trip because that's going to be the best package, but not
Yeah,
necessarily is what you're telling me.
yeah, not necessarily. And it's kind of crazy as far as like there's just so many little like, oh, you could fly here from this day and then like I don't know. Sometimes when I'm looking for flights, if it's cheaper, I'll look for a flight from North Carolina to Florida. And then, because I know flights from Florida to Minneapolis are super cheap. And so
Mhm.
I'll find one airport where I'm like, oh, well, I know that's cheap. So I could look for a flight just from North Carolina to Orlando and then get to Minnesota that way instead of going directly from North Carolina to Minnesota. So
Interesting. So it might take you a couple of extra minutes to kind of do all of that, but in the long run, you could essentially be saving yourself. I mean, if it's a family of 4 or 6 or 8,
yeah,
like you
it
could
could
essentially
be
a huge
like
saving.
definitely.
Awesome. What about using all these apps that are out there? Talk to us about your favorites. Are there any that we should stay away from that are just junk, or like, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think a biggest thing too when booking with airlines is typically the airline on their own website have the cheapest deals.
Uh,
Like if you go like Expedia or Priceline or whatever, they can find flights for you, but oftentimes I'll double check with the original airline's website and just make sure that those are like comparable prices. And they oftentimes are cheaper and they will at least guarantee you a spot. Sometimes when you're booking with like Expedia, you like don't know exactly what you're gonna get.
it's true.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, you can price check on Expedia, but also go back to that original airlines um, app or website to be able to like essentially triple secure your ticket. So
That's
um,
giant advice. I have to tell you a quick story right there, and I hope I don't make you lose your train of thought. But I was getting on the plane to head back east to go home a couple of years ago, and there was this poor mom, and she was at the desk, the flight attendant desk or whatever it was, trying to get onto the flight, and she couldn't, and they didn't have room for her, and she's like, "But I have a ticket," and the person she was talking to said, yeah, well, when you book it through sites like that, it's not necessarily a guarantee.
yeah, yeah. And so the airlines will do things too where they like essentially have a certain amount of tickets that they sell, but then they guarantee on people not coming or not showing up.
Yep.
So then it just depends on who's going to get in. Versus if you book directly with that supplier, you're going to get a ticket. And those other people are going to be the first ones to be bumped. So there's that, but also sometimes they do have, like if your travel dates and plans are flexible, you can go on before you check in and you can say like select my travel plans are flexible, whatever. And if you don't mind waiting a little bit, they'll put you on a different flight if one is full, and they'll typically give you like a voucher or something for a little extra cash to reimburse you for the waiting or something like that. So that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else as far as apps? Anything that you,
Yeah.
any
So
that you might use?
I love using Hopper. Hopper, it's a little pink app in the app store with a little white rabbit on it, and that app I have just been using to kind of track my flights. I fly a lot, and so I'm always like have like a watch list of flights on there, which is like awesome because it'll tell me if the price goes up or down, or it's like this price is going to go up within this amount of days. You should book before that amount of days. And I've managed to, I think, save a lot of money using that Hopper app. So it's pretty cool. And if you find something that you're looking for on the app, and then you like want to wait just a couple extra days to see if it'll go down, you can do what's called a price freeze, where you like freeze the price for up to 7 days, which is fantastic because then it will just freeze the price that you're at. Otherwise, if it does go up, then Hopper will pay the difference in the price that it goes up. So then you're not like losing out on that other price that you found.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it does cost like you have to put like a deposit down for the price freeze, but it's not I mean like depending on the price of the flight, it's pretty reasonable. I think for like $150 flight, it's like $44 or something um to save that price. And then you can if you don't end up using that price freeze and you don't like that flight or whatever, it just becomes credit on your account and you can use it for different flights as well. So I really like using Hopper, and you can do round trips, you can do multiple destination, you can do one-way tickets. You can also search for flights and like vacation rental homes on there as well, is what I found. So that's a good little trick to be able to kind of like temporary plan your trip without actually like booking anything in advance. So I really like using Hopper.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard of it. So
Yeah.
that is awesome, awesome info. Like as soon as we get off, I'm gonna go check it out.
Yes. So
That's
I
awesome. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to share?
um I think like I would just talk about a little bit about the airlines because sometimes people are like, "Oh, which airline should I fly?" I would say like Delta, American Airlines are probably your pretty. This is for United States travel. I won't get into all the Europe uh, flights that they have, but Delta and American are pretty much your top two like higher end. Um, they're like pretty they're just a bigger company. So they have more of like your flights being on time and like you're guaranteed to not have too many failures with the planes or something, like that sort of thing.
Hmm.
United is up there too, but I found that United just has like expensive flights. So I'm like, what? I don't know. But, and Southwest also has really good deals if you book just their like basic economy tickets, which
Hmm.
is great. And they have a lot of destinations and stuff. So they go a lot of places. Frontier is good if you just want like a cheap flight.
Hmm.
They don't really typically come with any extras, and you have to pay for like extras, bags and extra seats and extra like all the things. But Sun Country I found is very comparable with flights. So they'll be kind of as cheap as Frontier, but they actually offer you a little bit of in-flight service, and the bags are still like not included, but their flights are so cheap that sometimes even with the bag adding in, it's cheaper than booking on Delta. So that's a really fun thing that I found too. I would say Sun Country is one of my top favorites with airlines, as well as Delta and American Airlines. Yeah, I have the Delta card and the American card, and sometimes those help, getting points, and if you fly a lot too. So
Right, right. And if you can pack light, I mean, that's awesome that
yeah.
you don't have the bag charge and then you have, the lower fare for the flight. I have a
Hmm.
difficult time packing light, so
Same.
doesn't
Same.
apply to me, but my husband's real good at it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. You shared an incredible amount of value in like how long have we been on? Like 20 minutes, if that. I
Yeah.
don't know. That was incredible. I appreciate it so much. If one of our audience members or multiple audience members would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so we actually we use Facebook. You can message our Dawn of Adventures Facebook page, or you can email us at ashleydawn.travel@gmail.com. And typically we'll get back to you within 24 hours, and we can start searching for vacations or vacation packages if you want a flight and a car and a hotel or something like that. So we can definitely help in all areas. Basically, anything with the ticket, we can book it. So.
Awesome. I love it. It's such a cute little tagline. Perfect. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And I did link your Facebook page in the caption. So it's really easy for you guys, mamas out there, if you want to talk with Ashley. Look at her. She's so cute and easy to talk to. So just click on that link, click on like, click on message, and away we go. All right, Ashley.
Awesome.
Well, it's been
Thanks,
fun.
Katie.
Thank you. Bye.